Chapter 9 of the book Tribal Church is entitled Campus Tribes. Several years ago we were evaluating our facilities and we realized that if we continue to grow at the rate that we were growing, that we would outgrow our facilities at our current campus in 7 years. And so we said, well, how can we solve that? And we looked at several options. One was to relocate. And really that wasn't very feasible because whenever you sell a church property, you only get about 25 cents on the dollar. And we really had too much money invested in our current campus to do that. We talked about buying land next to us, and our neighbors on either side said no to that request. And so we thought, well, one of the things that we could do is we could build a parking deck, and that would allow us to be here longer. And so that was one option. Another was to run a shuttle service from a nearby retail parking establishment, and that would buy some time as well. And then we came across the idea of having other campuses. At the particular time that we looked at this, there was about 1,200 churches in the continental United States that were having satellite campuses, and they were doing that by providing video of the teaching at the other campuses. So we began to examine that, and we looked first of all at where most of our people were driving the longest distance, and we decided that we would plant a satellite campus, or community campus as we call them now, in that location. And so we went to the west of us, to Mesquite, Texas, and we planted our first campus. And in the process of doing that, we learned something else. And we learned that there were a number of our people who were driving a long distance to come to our campus. And they weren't doing a very good job of sharing their faith with their neighbors, because they were willing to drive that long distance to come to the Lake Point campus in Rockwall, but their lost friends weren't. And so we decided that we would begin to start other campuses, not because we needed the space at our main campus, but because it would give the people in our church, all of the people in our church, an opportunity to have a greater impact on their particular community. We now have 3 major satellite campuses, one in Mesquite, and one in Garland, and one in Forty. It's actually to the north, south, and west of us. There's not a great density of population to the east of us, so we probably won't start a campus in that direction. We've also started a campus at the Dawson State Prison, and we actually have had a campus there longer than any other location. We have 2 women's services and 1 men's service there in that state prison. You can actually join our church, you can actually be baptized there. We have small groups there, you can be discipled there, and after you're released from prison, if you don't have somewhere else in the state to return to be with family, you can move to one of our existing campuses and be a part of that campus. Now in our format, we use video that's played for the message. We have live worship, we have children's programs, we have small groups, everything that we have at our central campus, we have at those satellite or community campuses. The staff that we provide there is first of all a campus pastor, and then we have worship leaders that mostly are contract. And then we have at least a part-time children's minister, student minister, preschool minister, and then we have someone who helps with small groups. The investment that we've made in those campuses is about $250,000 for each one of those campuses, and that's not including the facilities. We have actually taken a old Oshman store, which is a sporting goods store, about 100,000 square feet that we purchased for one of our campuses. Another campus, a second campus, we actually built a facility from scratch. And then a third campus, we actually meet in a high school, an existing facility. So there's a lot of different ways that you can provide facilities for those campuses. We believe that you can't have a campus, and this is our own personal belief, that has a separate teacher all the time. And the reason is that if somebody is hearing a different voice, they're going to become a different campus. They're going to become a different church because you actually lead through your teaching. It's my personal belief that they need to hear from the lead pastor at least 30 weeks out of the year, or it really in time will become a separate church. Now, there's nothing wrong with that model if indeed that's your intent, to create separate churches. In fact, it may be a new way of planning churches is for you to start off with it being a satellite campus, having the same board, having the same senior pastor, and then later on at a different date to become actually a church plant. It may be a new good way of planting new churches. The campus satellite campus concept is one that has grown a lot over the last 10 years. And we've learned from people like Larry Osborne, and we've learned from other people who've done that well. And it's a viable way for you to help your people who drive a long distance to your church to do a better job of evangelizing their community. It's also a way for you to provide the necessary facilities in a more efficient way. It's a way for your tribe to increase by creating sub-tribes called campuses.